Well, hello everyone. Thanks so much for tuning into this video here. I am super honored, and honestly, I'm just looking forward for us getting a chance to hang out. I've got my friend here, Chris Greer. Chris, how you doing, buddy?
Man, I'm great, John. I'm here with John Hammond. I'm stoked to be here. So thanks for having me, man.
We have, I think, an equivalent fanboying over each other. We haven't had a
Yeah,
chance to meet,
yeah,
haven't had a chance to hang out yet, but I've seen you across the interweb waves, right? But I'm loving what you've been doing. You've got a YouTube channel, right? Can you tell me about who you are, what you're up to for anyone listening in that just might not be familiar just yet?
absolutely, for sure. And hey, that's how I found you as well on YouTube and seeing your interviews. And honestly, as I've gotten deeper into cybersecurity, it's been great to follow your content. So thanks for everything you've done, John, for yeah, helping get me up to speed. But for those that haven't met me yet, I'm Chris Greer. Uh, I'm a packet head. That's what I call it. I like looking through Wireshark PCAPs, and by trade as a consulting business, that's what I do. People send me traffic from their networks, or I go and help them collect that traffic. And we find one of two things. It's either slow or broken, or, hey, what's going on that looks weird? Are we, is there any kind of indicators of compromise or what's happening on the wire? So I also have a YouTube channel, like you said, John, and you can find tips and tricks about using Wireshark, capturing traffic, and just how to make sense of what we see in Wireshark.
I love it. So I'm normally like, as you mentioned, hey, I guess I've fallen into the more like infosec, hey, whether it's capture the flag, whether it's pen testing, whether it's bug bounty, but the whole networking stuff. Truthfully, I feel like it's just sort of fallen to the wayside for me. Like, I don't know a whole lot of the whole CCNA shenanigans, CCIE, or whatever all those acronyms and certs are. Do you mind, I guess, just giving me a peek as to, hey, how did you get into network engineering and what was sort of your trajectory in career work, if that's all right?
Sure, absolutely. So yeah, so I started off as a network engineer. After I got out of school, it was right when a lot of people basically they were taking flatbed trucks and backing them up to schools and just bringing everyone they could into IT. Almost like, I mean, not that same exact things happening with cyber right now, but there was just this massive need. And so right away, I got my CCNA. I fell in love with networking, and I happened to work for a company that did network analysis, like that. They built products that did network analysis. So I got to it was a bit of a different track. I wasn't taking it from a building out networks and designing networks perspective. I got started right away on troubleshooting networks. Like, here's a tool, what's wrong, and let's get in and fix it. So one of my first tools that I was assigned to do and do tech support for was a protocol analysis tool. And it was called Protocol Expert, old company named Finisar that's since gone. They were bought by a company called Fluke Networks. And I was taking calls from people that were having problems at the packet level. And they would call in and say, hey, my network's slow. And I'd go, is the tool working? It looks like it's working fine. And they're like, yeah, but my network's slow. So then I got really interested in not just pathing the traffic, not just building the highways and byways and speeds and feeds, but what's that traffic actually doing? And then I just fell in love with protocols.
Super cool. Are you digging into a whole lot of, I guess Bro has transformed into Zeek, right? And I think of other, and I'm probably getting all of these wrong. I'm just that naive, but like Suricata or like SecurityOnion, a lot of other sensors and taps. Are you playing with those on a day-to-day basis, or what's kind of your bread and butter?
That's a great question. So for me, I don't spend a lot of time on IDS, IPS tools. I instead now work with my customers who do have those systems installed, right?
Cool.
So a lot of times what I end up doing is, okay, here's an alert. Can we validate it in the traffic,
Nice.
right? Is it a false alarm? We have this PCAP and we have this alert from Circata. Or, hey, we didn't get an alert on this. Is this malware activity? Let's take a look at it from the packet level and see what we can do. And also too, John, where I spend a lot of my time, and just no lie, people call me for TCP stuff constantly,
It's not just
constantly.
the handshake, right? It's not just, oh, hey, Synac ack. It's more than that.
No, sir. There's a lot going on with TCP, and that's something that I found kind of early in my career is that you had the networking people, and there were certifications for that. You had the operating system people, MCSE, Microsoft stuff, and even server certs and that kind of thing. but there wasn't a lot in the middle between that this very important transport layer bridge of TCP. So what I found is that going to the packet level and looking at things from a protocol perspective, like if something was slow, if we had a slow file transfer across a network, looking at TCP, you could figure out, oh, okay, here's retransmissions, or here's when something's getting hung up, or here was a weird reset that matches with that log event where the other side got disconnected. So, but getting down to the packets gave us that proof. So for me, from a career standpoint, that's where I started going into really helping people do more troubleshooting and analysis. And more recently, I've been asked to do more on the cybersecurity side.
I think that's super cool because I mean, I always try to look for, hey, you know, whatever we could consider like a ground truth, or like, hey, this is a single source of truth. And oftentimes, hey, sure, if you're doing instant response, if you're trying to uncover malware, threat actor activity, yeah, you've got the endpoint, you've got the host, which I know I spend some time on, but the network is just as easily part of the puzzle. And there are pictures there that help you unravel the full story. Something that I was kind of most excited about when we were getting a chance to jam and hang out was that your attitude and your passion about like, hey, John, you want to see it? you want to see some cool stuff? Let's do some show and tell. Let's do some demos. What can folks, you know, be expecting to see on your YouTube channel? And do you mind showing us some of the super cool behind the scenes stuff? Anything you got that I could see?
For sure, man. I mean, it's fun when we get down to the packet level. I really, really enjoy it, right? You know, so I get super nerdy about it. And on my channel, to answer that question, you're going to find, okay, what are some filters that you can set with Wireshark? How does the handshake actually work? Just recently, I posted one about what are some common protocols that you should know? You know, I mean, in following a path you've definitely gone down. I'm trying to get some more cybersecurity certifications, get my hands dirty there. And so I've been noticing in all these tests, like what's this port number? What's that port number? So those kind of videos you'll see over on my channel for sure. And I'm usually giving you a PCAP to follow along. So you can download it, open up Wireshark locally, and you can follow along with what I'm up to. I thought we could have some fun by looking at some scan activity, what came from looks like a multinational botnet army just hammering this subnet with sins, and how you would find that at the packet level. If that sounds like a good time to you, John.
Oh man, absolutely. That sounds super cool. Before we dive in, I do want to add one quick footnote because I think it deserves some great love. Is that you recently put out a couple of videos on like Nmap, like hey, the super common tool network mapping that I think, hey, you know, pen testers, bug bounty, or at least people that do offensive security or red teaming are practically always using. Like when we do a cheesy hack the box machine or a TryHackMe room, you're firing up Nmap. But I mean, you got to showcase like, look, how does this actually look from that packet level? And what are those fingerprints or the things that you might be poking and hitting the server with when you're sending packets with Nmap? And I think that's super duper cool to change the perspective when we normally just take it for granted. Oh, I'm looking at a new box, I fire up Nmap, and then I move on. Like, okay, what actually happened there? So I would absolutely encourage anyone, go take a look at some of those videos. But please, Chris, take it away, man. The stage, the floor is yours. I'd love to see any fireworks you want to light off.
For sure, let's do it. And you know, if I can comment on that, John, real quick before we get into the demo. I mean, part of my struggle with, like, okay, take TryHackMe. I've been definitely getting involved more with Hack the Box, TryHackMe, and learning more on the cybersecurity tools. I've used Nmap for years, but learning Metasploit and some of these other tools, like, yes, you go in and you hit a button, but for me, I'm not really satisfied until I know how it really works. Like OS enumeration, cool. I can use that switch in Nmap. Awesome. Hit a button and then, oh, boom, it's a Linux server. Boom, boom, you know. But how did I figure that thing out? So I like to capture to the packet level and dig through and go, whoa, that packet that's how it's going down to that field in TCP. And that's how it figured out that it was, you know, that I find I understand it better and can remember the switches better and learn how the tool works better when I understand it at that level. So that's what I try to share with my audience.
I love it. Well, hey, let's get into it. I know people are going to want to see that hands-on, that practical stuff. So I'm ready to dive in whenever you are.
Fantastic. Okay. So I told you that this is basically, you can see it's scan traffic. There's a few reasons why we know that. You see all the sins over here on the in the info view. If I come over here, I got source destination. You see all these different sources that are coming in and just hammering this 129 box. Now, for people, if you haven't seen my stuff before, or if we're just now meeting, you're going to notice that on my profile in Wireshark, I like to light up my sins bright green. All right. So if you saw this maybe on a default view, I'm just going to flip over to a different profile. If you just had the standard default view with Wireshark, you're going to see how this is going to be how it looks, right? Okay, great. But for me, I like certain things to jump out at me, and one of them is sins. So that's why I painted them bright green. You can do that if you go to view coloring rules. And what you do is you drop in, let me just come over here. What you do is you just create a new coloring rule and just paint them whatever bright color you like, whatever it could be. You know, this is a personalization thing. So anyway,
these are all the features like I would always either just not know or forget or just never end up doing in Wireshark. So I'm super interested in like, hey, what are those cool fine-tuned settings you can play with here?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And there's so many, and I think that's why it can be a little overwhelming, not just to look at the wire, but also look at Wireshark and go, man, there's so many tools and little things. What actually are the top 5 I'm gonna use? So that's what I teach in my Wireshark trainings, which, by the way, I do offer Wireshark training. You can get a snapshot of that on my YouTube channel as well. But all right, back to our packet capture. So just taking a little walk down the PCAP here, I can see this is just a ton of SYN activity, man. It's coming in. What my eye is doing right here, John, is I'm over here at delta time. Now, this is a column that I added in Wireshark. Delta time is the amount of time between packets. So that is 1 microsecond. So full second dot milliseconds, first 3, then the last 3 are microseconds. So literally, SYNs are coming in at wire speed.
Sheesh.
Just hammering this thing. Okay. Something else that's interesting to me as I'm taking a walk down this PCAP is I noticed the number of different types of addresses that these are coming from. It's not like it's just coming from one subnet or one region or one block of addresses. We're just getting rocked from all over the place. Now, there's a super cool feature of Wireshark that we can use, and it's called GeoIP. Let me just select any. I'm just going to pick a packet.
Yeah.
Let's go down into details over here on the bottom left. If I expand out IP, now something that I've enabled in my Wireshark is the ability to not just take a look at, okay, here's the 2 addresses in the IP header, but what it can do is it can take the one that is publicly addressable. The destination address is private address space, right?
Yep.
But the one that's publicly addressable, this guy, he goes and looks him up in a database. There's an actual local database that I have locally installed. It's called GeoIP database. And we can link in the description down below, John, we can link that to where people can go get those databases because they're free.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And all you do is you have 3 little databases. One's for autonomous system, one is for city, and one is for country. So now if I expand source GeoIP, now I can see where geographically this IP is coming in from. So here I see US, and I also have latitude, longitude.
Whoa.
Which is pretty killer.
Yeah, slap that on a map, and then you know, like, oh man, all right there.
I'm glad you asked. So let's go ahead and go up to statistics. So usually this is what I like to do. Okay, so I got this kind of thing. And honestly, I do this when I'm doing malware analysis. I do when I'm doing any kind of, hey, Chris, this is, is this unusual traffic that you spot? So let's go ahead and go statistics endpoints. Now, at first, these are all of my local addresses that do not have country, city, autonomous system number, autonomous system organization. If I scroll on down, this is where I start to get some resolution here as soon as I get into the public addressing. So I've got Belgium, US, Ashburn, some Amazon autonomous system information. If I keep scrolling, check out some of these countries. Oh, this thing, we're just getting hammered by these. Ooh, a little Russian traffic. Come on in. Let's see, where else? Turkey, Israel, China. We're getting Canada, So, and, this is probably bomb ball. He's probably hitting us too.
Oh, that David Bombal guy, dude, he
Yeah,
never goes away.
I know, right? There he is. So anyway,
We love you, David. Let me say that before we go.
right. So okay, so let's do this. All right, this is wonderful, right? But let's actually throw this guy on a map. So if I just go to map down here on the lower right, since I have the GeoIP coordinates, I can say open in browser. And let me go ahead and bring this in on my screen. Here we go. So what it does is it just shoves it over to a browser.
Oh, wow.
And then now I can see map of the world, those the GeoIP locations. Now, again, let's just do a little grain of salt here, right? This looked it up in a static database that was generated in September, right? So as of September, this is where these IPs were registered to. Okay, so it's not like right now, but if I wanted to get right now, if I wanted to go, you know what, let me just double check what it is today. I can go back out to MaxMind and I can look it up as of yesterday, right? So that's just a little, just so people know. Yeah, so we got stuff coming in from the US. In fact, I think maybe this is coming from your house, John.
Yeah. That one over in the DMV area is looking like me. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, if I hit these guys, then you can see these are all unique IPs coming from these ranges, right? So we've got a bunch. So there might be, and I know we have a multi-international audience. We're not picking on anybody, so it just depends. What I would look at is, okay, do we do business in these areas? Should I expect to see traffic from if I'm existing down there in Mexico? Do I have customers that are in Israel and India and China and all over? Like, so that's the question. Like, should I expect to see that? Well, I think most of us would agree it's just unusual to see this amount of sins coming from this number of locations in the world. Right. So that's I wanted to show everybody how to map out where IPs are coming in from. You need the GeoIP databases installed, and then you need to be able to kick that over in Wireshark. And in fact, John, I have a step-by-step of how to do that, and maybe we can just link that below instead of me taking more time walking you through how to set that up.
Absolutely. I think that's a great call. Hey, let's I'd love to maybe send some of our friends over to see the cool stuff you're up to. Totally. Cool.
So now that we're here, this is where we can have some fun. So now there's a few things we can do. Like, for example, let's just say, what I'm doing right here is I'm looking down here at GeoIP city and even country, right? I'm just going to flip through and find, okay, let's just say UK, just for grins. All right, let's just say. Now, if I wanted to, this is where I could, let me just do this country code here. I'm going to right click that, and I'm going to say prepare as filter selected. So now up on top, I have GeoIP source country, Great Britain. Now, okay, I just did source. Let me back up and do that again. I'm going to do it with either direction, either going to or coming from selected. And there we go. So if I have traffic going to and from Great Britain, that is a filter that I can then apply. Now I only see the Great Britain stuff. If I take a look at my display down below, I got 812 packets. So now if that was something that would be an alarm for me, now I can come over here and I can add this, and I can say UK traffic. And I can then say, okay, now that will be added as a button. You see the top right over here?
Ooh, yeah.
Now in the future, I can just come up and go, hey, do I have anything coming in from the UK? Or I can set several different country codes if I want to. Show me what's coming in from Mexico, Great Britain, Brazil, Japan, wherever. If those were going to be suspect countries for me, I can just hit that filter, and then I know if I'm having weird traffic. And then I can even, if I want to, I can even color it to be bright red and go, hey, you're getting traffic from John's house. That's something I'd want to know about. Right. So how are we doing so far?
I'm loving it. This is awesome.
Okay. So now I know you being the security mind. Another thing that can happen is IPs can be spoofed.
Yeah, that's kind of the question that I was going to ask is like, I know it looks like, hey, we're getting hit from all directions, but are they real, for one thing?
And I'm glad you asked. That's a great question. So let's look at a few different ways that we can do a little bit further investigation to determine, hey, is this coming from a real device, or is this coming from a single device, or is it several single devices? Like how many different types of devices are actually taking part in this scan? Now, as an analyst, one of the things that I look at when I like looking at TCP SYNs, I do it quite a bit. I'm just going to come down, and one thing that catches my eye. Now, this is partial experience, so I know it might not catch everybody's eye, but I want to start helping people see the kind of things that could look weird. First of all, my sequence number. The starting sequence number for this packet is 34574. Now, this is a 4-byte value. Okay, if I come over here in the actual hexadecimal, this is a 4-byte value. It's normal to see a pretty high numbered sequence number when a TCP handshake begins. Let me tell you what a sequence number is. Basically, all I'm doing is, okay, I'll be the client, you be the server, John. I'm just saying, hey, John, I'm going to start counting the data that I'm going to send you from this number. So if I send you 1 byte, the next time I'm going to start on 34575. And if I send you 1 more byte, 76, 78. Or then I move forward depending on how many bytes I've sent. That's how I can tell you got my stuff, because you're going to acknowledge, you're going to send back an ACK number for the data that I have sent you. That's what TCP is, a reliable protocol. So if I send you data, I'm going to increment that sequence number. You're going to increment the acknowledgement number as you receive it. Wonderful. But coming in here, I see this low starting sequence number. Now I'm just going to right click this guy and I'm going to add it as a column. And if I come over here, notice that a lot of these different packets are in that 33, 34,000 range, right? So that makes me go, okay, let me just start adding more pieces to this puzzle. Let me show you what a true SYN should look like. I think I have one. Okay, you see down here.
Oh, yeah.
This is this client actually responding. You see, to this scan, there were some open ports. You see port 80? Port 80 was actually open. So our target said, hey, I'm here. But this is a real target. So it was sending back a real SYNAC. Like it was like, hey, I am here. Hi, let's talk. But check out its starting sequence number. That's a monster, right?
Yeah,
it's a big old.
Vastly different.
This is normal.
Okay.
This is what you usually see, right? And you don't see a number that's that low. So right away, that caught my attention going, okay, this is a tool that's generating this SYN traffic. It looks like it's starting in the range of 30, 33. Now I'm going to see if I can find any more patterns here. The next thing, so first of all, sequence number, I added that as a column. The next thing that I was interested in when I saw this, here I have another one in the 757 range. And I'm just kind of taking a walk. You notice that I have right here, John, in the 30s, and then I have this 757.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Now,
So
those
it
are on
looks
a
like
different IP. Is that their destination is a .63? Those are, I don't know if I'm muddying the waters on that one or not.
No. Say that again, John.
The destination IP on that one is 63.216 or 63.209. Those are different from our 64.129, right?
Yeah. And it looks like this could be legit, just an actual true connection that's happening.
Okay.
Possible. And that's always the question, right? Is it involved or not? It's happening so fast though that it looks suspect to me.
Yeah.
I don't like that. It's still sub-millisecond. Like, hey, if somebody wanted something from you or was doing some type of resolution, usually they're not like, hey, just like hammering you.
Answer me. Yeah.
So let's add to this. Let's do a little bit more. Okay, we added sequence number. Now I also wanted to add my time to live. This is my IP time to live. And let me talk to you about why. So IP time to live is a useful tool. I mean, we've seen this when we send a ping, right? You can ping anything. And in fact, let me just going to bring up my little terminal. And let's just do that together. Let's bring in because people, we use this field a lot. We just don't think about using it a lot. I'm just going to send a ping about google.com just for stuff. All right, you see my TTL?
Yeah.
All right. Usually we pay attention to the network round trip time, 25 milliseconds. Like, great, I got a response. My target's alive. Wonderful. That TTL is telling me an estimate of how far away this device is. 118. So basically, there's 3 starting TTLs when it comes to IP. Either it starts at 255, 128, or 64. This value in the IP header, let me come down here and show you. TTL. So this number starts at one of those 3 numbers. Again, that's 255, 128, or 64. And then every router will decrement it one time. So that means that it's likely that that target, Google, was probably 10 hops away from me. It started at 128, 127, 126, 125, and 124, and I captured it at 120 or 118. So that's why I can do kind of an educated guess. Like, okay, that target's probably 10 hops away. That's probably about the distance. That's why that field is there in a ping, everybody. That's why it's always been there. We just had to learn how to use it. So usually when you see that value, you can count up to the most logical number that it started at, 255, 128, 64, and then you can get a guesstimation of the number of router hops. So what I like to do is I like to take IP time to live. I like to add that guy as a column. Now I have more of a context of how far away these devices are coming from, unless this is a spoofed value. I think this could actually be real though. So, and I'll show you why. If I take a look at, okay, I've got, notice that I have like 105, 105, 105. So it's possible that this started at 128 would be the normal number that it would start at in the IP stack. Let's just say that that was 23 hops away. 105, 105, 105. All the 105s are coming from a similar range. You see 134, 134, yeah. 134, 134, 134, right? So I see that pattern there. So I'm going to make a pretty, I'm just going to start to postulate that I have a single device that's sitting 23 hops away that is a part of the botnet that is spoofing these address ranges. It's probably, these aren't all different devices, but it could be that I have a device that is spoofing based on that subnet and it's that distance away. If I keep going with my analysis, I start to see I have patterns in my TTL. Like there's a device at 123, 123. I got 109. You start to see little patterns like this, and that starts to help you go, okay, 172. So 172, 212, 123, 123, 123, 123. So that 212 is from a similar place, that 172. Oh, there's another 212 as well. So I start to take little pieces of information like this, and I start to go, you know what? It could be, it is entirely possible that this is just one device that just spoofed everything. Yeah, possible. However, I'm thinking because of the sequence number patterns and the TTL patterns, that these are probably 10 or so devices around the world that were compromised. And then they were all instructed, go hit them, boys. And then that's where we started to see this scan from.
I dig the detective work, though. Like, one way or the other, it's very, very cool to see all the different breadcrumbs that kind of help, get you closer to one conclusion, one thought.
Yeah. And another one would be, okay, how many ports did they actually find open?
Fair enough. Yeah.
Well, let's do it. Glad you asked. So a SYN's going to come in, and if a port is open, then I'm going to see a SYN-ACK, right?
Right.
So let's go ahead and let's filter for SYN-ACKs. 2 ways I can do that. One way, if I could just come up here and just do TCP. By the way, I'm going to show you where I get this from. So I'm not just this walking library of display filters. I picked a packet. If I go down to TCP and I go down to flags and I go down to SYN, you see down here in the lower left hand, TCP.flags.syn. If I want to filter for SYNs, That's my syntax. Cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, actually, I could just do this, right click, prepare as filter selected. And I also want an ACK bit. So I'm just going to right click that, prepare as filter and selected. Only I don't want it to be 0. I want it to be 1. So that's syn ACK. That's one way to set a syn ACK filter. Another way, real quick, just for the Uber nerds out there, what we can do is we can go to the flags field, that whole field in the TCP header, like here I see it, and I can say, okay, I just want to filter where I have literally hexadecimal 012. 000, this is 0001, there's my 1, 0010, 2. So that means ACK true, syn true. And that will give me a syn ACK as well. So either one of those will work. I can say, here, I'll apply this filter just so you can see what it looks like. Either tcp.flags equals hexadecimal 012, or I could say syn is true, ACK is true. Just show me those. Now, also my target. I also want to make sure that these are coming from this device. So that's where I'm just going to right click this guy. I'm going to say prepare as filter and selected. So the source is going to be this poor soul that was being hammered by sins. And I want to see any syntax coming back. So let's go ahead and hit that filter. And now I can see, if I take a look at the bottom, there's 500 packets. Just doing a visual, I can see that these guys over here are all coming from port 80. To validate that, I'm going to go up to statistics and I'm going to go to conversations. And I'm going to be on TCP. I'm going to come down here to the lower left and say limit to display filter. So now this is going to show me statistics with respect to the filter that I set. Here I can see I've got one packet coming in from 64. This is just the syn ACK that I filtered for. But here's what I'm going to do, John. I'm going to go, okay, what ports are open? And right there, I just see 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. All right.
80 so all the way down.
It was only port 80. So now I know what I can go either protect or should I expect to see that? But definitely that port's open. How are we doing so far?
I'm good. So I have a couple wandering questions.
Yeah.
And maybe, so forgive me, I have no idea if I'm in the wrong or maybe it's like completely off the wall curveballs. I don't know. But one thing kind of open-ended and one thing I guess a little bit more, hey, closed, there might be an answer that I don't know. I thought, and I could be totally wrong, I think I've heard from other, hey, smart, super nerdy folks that looking at the time to live, right, the TTL you were diving into, I want to ask you, is there some notion that based on the default TTL value, whether it's 128, 64, I think you mentioned 255, could that clue you in as to potentially, maybe, and this is just a very loose association or guess, could that clue you in as to what the operating system is? I thought I've heard, and I might be totally wrong, like Linux responds with one of them, 64 or 128. Windows responds with one of them, 120 or 64. Am I in the wrong there? Or what? I see you nodding your head, sort of.
You're slam dunking, man. Are you kidding me? What are you talking about? That's part of what Nmap looks at. So good job.
Cool.
Yeah. Nah, you're like, man.
Which goes to which? 64 is Linux?
Right. So 64, I typically see on Linux machines. Okay. Windows, I'm typically seeing 128. And then usually if I'm talking to infrastructure devices like routers, switches, a lot of times I see those in the upper range of 255. But you hit that's an exact question that, I totally nerd out. And I like to talk to the super nerdy people too. Like if you see a SYNAC coming back, and let me show you all the things that Nmap looks at. Okay. So for example, this device, if I come down IP, so this device just came back with a port 80 open. Cool. Well, imagine that we were running an OS fingerprint. Well, we would come in and we go, okay, time to live 254. So he's coming back with 254. That means he began at 255. So that number matters. Okay. So, all right. Interesting. Moving forward, I'm also going to be interested in the starting sequence number that he uses, because different IP stacks or different TCP stacks will use different starting ranges, more or less. So Nmap can actually look at that and go, okay, I see this TTL. I see this starting sequence number. All right, keep going. And then he'll also come down here and look at options. Like, so I got TCP options here. I just see the MSS, the maximum segment size, and that maximum segment size is 1460. Cool. All of that is going to be information that I use to determine who you are and what version you are. So from one stack to the next, these things can be different. Starting sequence numbers, even the order of options. I can have a bunch of TCP options, but what order are they in? That can help me determine the operating system. So you were right on the money.
Cool. I don't know. That always stuck with me because I thought, like, wow, that's the wildest thing. It's super cool. If you ping something, you might have a hint as to what the heck the thing is out there, way out in the ether.
Oh,
That's
for
cool.
sure. Absolutely. Now, I mean, for me as an analyst, I mean, I do this for a living, right? I mean, stacks change enough where I also don't bet my firstborn child on it
Right.
just from this, unless I don't really have a firstborn child, but if I did, I would definitely probably do some further analysis there. But those are one of just the quick indicators that you can look for.
Cool. Now,
Yeah.
another thought, and again, this might be, hey, kind of an interesting one in a lot of different ways, I guess, to think. Say this situation, right? Hey, you got a box, it's just getting hit from all over the world, different places, different countries, etc. I know there's always a weird conversation of like geofencing, blocking by particular region of the world. Can I ask you, and maybe this is, hey, just a friendly answer, like, what do you think? Is that valuable? Does that carry some weight? Whether or not world conflict X, Y, or Z is happening, is it realistic for a sysadmin network engineer to say, yeah, maybe we don't need traffic from region ABC XYZ?
Yeah. There's not a hard yes or no. It would be like, okay, if we did that, what would be the downside?
Gotcha.
Right? Like what are the possible consequences? If I'm a major international vendor where I have a global market space, I'm an Amazon, I obviously want all the business I can get, so maybe I'd consider doing that. Or I would consider not taking that step. I know some of my clients have chosen to do some geo blocking, of certain areas just to prevent this type of thing. Um, and they haven't seen any negative repercussions. So I really think it just depends on the policies of the company and what risk they're willing to tolerate for their business should they block something that could be a legitimate customer.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks for dancing
Yeah.
with me on that one. I know that's like a weird, spicy can of worms, but I
No.
always think
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing. You got whatever people giving their hot takes out on LinkedIn or on Twitter, and then some people start arguing like, "Oh, sometimes it's valuable, sometimes it's not." I'm glad, there just isn't a clear answer. You have to assess your own risk, your own threat model. Um,
Yeah. Well, I had to answer that like a consultant, right? I could just be like,
exactly.
well, because the thing is that's often where for that type of thing that I end up, when people send me a PCAP or I'm working with a client, and I just have to really strongly consider what are their goals and what possible negative, there's going to be a negative side too. So let's try to consider both sides.
Totally.
All right. So another thing that I'll do, just in addition to looking at a botnet just hammering devices from different places in the world, something that I'm often asked to do is like, hey, within our walls, behind our firewalls, is there any scan activity? Like what's happening on the wire? Do you notice anything weird? And I'd like to show the good people a few filters that I have that help me to run to actually look through that traffic quickly, and actually some buttons that they can borrow and to take a look at what's happening. So one thing that I look at is if I take a look, so here's just some ICMP. I can see a bunch of ping requests, and right away, if I notice that I have sequential pings like this, right, like the IPs, I'm just going through them, 112, 113,
Oh yeah.
it's a pretty lazy scan. We're not even jumping around IPs. I mean, any honest IDS this will probably trigger all kinds of things. But also coming into the sins, if I come down and take a look at this packet, for example, there's some interesting stuff that's happening in here. Let me come down. Okay, sequence number, I'm going to jump over. That looks kind of normal, but window, this is one that I really focus on. Okay, so window size is 1024. Let me tell you what a window is. All right, so hey, John, I want to talk to you, SYN, and I'm going to send port, what are we sending here? Port 443. Hey, John, are you open on port 443? By the way, if you are and we connect, you can only send me 1024 bytes at once. That's it. Even though your payload could be up to 1460 at the TCP layer, 1500 at the IP header, but 1024, that's all you get. That's just kind of a weird statement.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Weird. So even because right below that, I'm saying, hey, John, by the way, the maximum segment size, the most payload that you can put into this segment is 1460. So I'm telling you that I accept 1460 byte packets. You can send me 1460 at once. However, the bucket that I have to catch it in is only 1024. So, hey, John, let's go out for a beer. Let's get a pint. Oh, by the way, my stomach can only handle 12 ounces, but we just bought a pint. You're looking at me like, buddy, you can't handle 4 more ounces. So that's just kind of a weird thing, right? So what I do is I go, all right, this is very unrealistic to see on the wire, to see just a very, very, very low window like this in the SYN. There are a few caveats, but generally speaking, I can just prepare a filter and I can say, okay, window size value and tcp.flags.syn equals 1. When I see that in a SYN packet, now I can come over here and I can go, okay, I can just hit the plus button and then I can say Nmap stealth. I got a 1024 in a SYN. I can say, okay. And in fact, I could even do this. This is kind of a fun feature of Wireshark. I can add this to signatures //. So now that what that will do is it will nest my buttons, because I start to have a lot of buttons over here. So now I have a signatures dropdown where I can just come down and I can just hit Nmap stealth, and any packet with 1024 in it, I can look at it and go, okay, we're starting to cycle through ports. We're looking at, just look at the scan activity. Yeah, whoever 2.15 is scanning this network.
They're up to some shady stuff.
Some shenanigans are afoot. And there's obviously more that we do after that as far as, okay, so is data being exfiltrated? Like where, over which protocols? Look at the packet sizes and those kinds of things. And it's very interesting to see what type of behaviors are out there. So I thought I would just kind of wrap up with that as well, that there's just a lot of useful stuff at the packet level. It's the key is that we need to be able to understand how to actually read Wireshark to then be able to look at it.
So some other lingering questions now, because you got me all thinking. A lot of those oddities, like, hey, the window size, hey, we're asking for 120 or 1024 just because reasons, right? Is that by nature of the tool that would have been used to perform this attack, whether it's Nmap, whether it's hping3, et cetera, and is there flexibility for, hey, maybe a little bit of a smarter actor with a little bit more know-how to craft something else that could do things differently? Like I play with Python, right? I play with the scripting language, and it has a module Scapy where you can kind of craft and make your own packets. I'm sure you're super familiar with it. Like, sure. Can I just make my packet whatever the heck I want? Or
yep.
Yeah, okay. It's the Wild West. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's hard. And this is as well as anybody, John. It's so hard to make absolutes anymore, especially in cyber, because as soon as we make an absolute, then an actor goes, oh, that's what they're going to look for. Here's how you evade it, So it's literally, it can be low hanging fruit to find things like this. But let me talk to you about a difference between, okay, right there with Nmap. This was taken with a stealth scan. If I do the full connect scan, you see Nmap as a tool will generate this scan from the actual app itself. So it's the one doing the 1024. If I do a full connect scan, I do a connect call down to the operating system stack itself. So Nmap says, hey, Linux operating system stack, you do the handshake. And then that handshake is very real. It's got options and it's got a useful window, and it'd be as if we were doing something legit. So then I can have a legit looking scan with that handshake. That's the difference between a stealth scan and a TCP full connect. And in fact, I have a video about that, contrasting the two on my channel. We can maybe link that below too.
Absolutely.
That was a great question, John. You have some good ones.
No, I mean it's just fascinating to me, right? Because I'm super happy to see, hey, real human beings, like manual, like analysis, going through, digging through it, trying to know what's good and what's bad, what's ugly. And I think it helps put the picture together as to what is really going on. Like, you have a lot of the whole conversation. Oh, prevention versus detection. Oh, network versus endpoint. Oh, etc. I mean, all of it plays a part, and it helps bolster security one way or the other. And I think that's just a great thing. So this has been super cool, Chris. This has been like a breath of fresh air. Like, again, I'm not normally dragging myself through Wireshark. I don't know if a whole lot of the folks that I don't know, I guess audience or folks listening in tend to, but I think it's something that we should all probably maybe learn some of those cool, neat tricks in, because you can uncover so much more and you see a different perspective. So thank you for doing this, man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And for the people that this did catch their interest, I just wanted to, if you don't mind, John,
Absolutely.
check out my Wireshark filters TryHackMe room. Right. So yeah, so this is out there. As of this recording with you, John, it's being prepared to go public, so it's not searchable just yet, but maybe we can link to it, and you can just start to get some hands on, get your feet wet, hands dirty, however you want to say it, with progressively learn how to build some of these filters in Wireshark. Because I mean, that's part of what my students mention, or anyone that, I have conversations with my clients and stuff. They're like, okay, I know how to capture a mountain of traffic. I just don't know how to make sense out of a mountain of traffic, and I feel that. I understand it. I do not forget my roots, man, how that felt. So I get it. And that's why I try to help people either through YouTube or through tools like these to help to learn some of these tips and tricks, because I personally think packets and Wireshark are just such an important thing to understand, network engineering, cybersecurity, or otherwise. So yeah, stop by and have some fun in the packets, everybody.
So one last thing, I want to sing your praises a little bit more. I know, hey, you got that fantastic YouTube channel, you got the stellar TryHackMe room, and you got all the other things you're kind of doing, hey, off on the side for courses and classes. And you're over at DEFCON. Is that fair to say? Can I spill the beans on that one?
Yeah, man. So last year, I was invited to do, actually, I was so shocked, John, to be asked to teach at DEFCON. I was so pumped, man. And what I did is I put out just a proposal for TCP analysis with Wireshark course. And I was just like, hey, like the enumerations and exploits and a lot of what we do in cyber is carried over TCP, not all, but a lot. We should know this protocol too, and how it can be compromised and attacked and everything. And they ate it up. They were like, yeah, let's get you in for DEFCON. So that was last year. I went ahead and put in another proposal for this year. So that's in the works. So I'm hoping that gets accepted, and who knows, I'm amped to be there. I will absolutely be there. And John, you and I are going to meet in person, hopefully there. Yeah. For sure.
We're all going to hang out. Everyone listening in, hey, come hang out. You got John Hammond, you got Chris Greer, you got like a security network engineering. You got a family reunion there. So
yeah, man, I'm looking forward to that. That'll be a good time.
Cool. Thank you, Chris. Seriously, this has been a ton of fun. I'm really glad you were able to, hey, get you up on stage, get you doing your show. And I'm excited for what more we can do together.
For sure. That'd be awesome, John. Hey, thank you for having me, and hello to everybody that tuned in, and we'll see you next time.